Yeah, testing, 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 testing. Just testing, just testing.
I see green. Okay.
Green.
Testing.
Okay. Mic's working. Yep. We're all set. Okay. Welcome, everybody. This is the big one tonight. This is the lecture on AI, and I'll go into that more in a second. But first, let me go through our routine weekly announcements. Let me bring up. Let me get the lights. Okay, upcoming announcements, upcoming meetings. Next Friday night, we're doing this now every 3 months, 4 times a year. It has been wildly successful. People love it. It's our critique night. Submit up to 3 images. Just email them in. They don't have to be downsized or anything. Just send them in. If they're too big to fit in one email, send 1 per email to info@clevelandphoto.org, which is our email address. And that night, we're going to be doing constructive criticism by our CPS panel. No judging allowed for that night. So this is basically, these are pictures you take anytime. They could be from 30 years ago, one you have a question on, one you just really like, one you want some feedback on, and we'll be putting them up in real time on the screen. And so if there's some suggestion on editing about maybe cropping or lightening, we'll be able to do it in real time so you can see what these changes look like. So it's a fun night. It's next Friday. You could submit up until, please, make it several hours before I had to. I've had people who say, you didn't get my images, I just sent them 3 minutes ago. So give me a little bit of time to get them set. So yeah, just send any 3 images in, and that is next Friday night. Our upcoming competition season is starting. A little bit about this competition season. It's going to be a little bit different than last year in that it is very difficult. We've had very, very nice judges, cooperative judges. And we've been very, very spoiled. Judges are sometimes very, very hard to find and to get. And we use 3 judges per competition. Most clubs use 1. We've always done 3, and then we're going to try to continue doing 3. We think that's the way it should be done. But to make it a little bit easier to get, we have cut our competitions. We're still having 12, but instead of 6 print and 6 digital, they're going to be 8 digital and 4 print now, because it's sometimes a little bit easier to get judging for digital. Our pool is a little bit bigger. So you'll notice that on the schedule. If a lot of you have an old schedule, please go to our website, which under the competition section, that one is current. Now, with all that out of the way, the new competition season is coming up July 7th, People Competition, which will be a projection competition. July 14th is going to be a Zoom lecture. The clubhouse will be open. Very, very interesting. Eric Said is a commercial photographer who has a very interesting backstory. His website is very, very good. My journey into photography, he's had a lot of difficulties with disabilities, whatnot, learning disabilities. I'm not sure the exact ones. He's going to talk on all that. But he used photography to overcome a lot of these and develop an extremely successful commercial practice. So he's going to be talking on July 14th. July 21st, nature competition, projection again. And pre-competition on that, we are going to have, because this was originally a print one, so we're going to start the competition just a little bit later. And Gary Wood, our own Gary Wood from CPS, is going to be talking to us on an intro to Topaz Photo AI. Very topical of what we're talking about now. But the Topaz suite, which has been around a long time, and now this last year with them really pushing their Photo AI suite, he's going to talk to us about that. A SIG meeting, there is no SIG meeting in July. It falls on the July 4th weekend, so they want to just push it back to August. So our next SIG meeting will be August 3rd, first Thursday of August, and he's going to talk on black and white photography, tips, techniques, all kinds of things too. Very good talk, and we will then break into camera-specific groups like we usually do. Back to the wild, the field trip. If you've got photos and you're on the field trip, send them in. Our website now, our new website is active. All of our field trip galleries are up and running. I usually put the photos up there within 24, 48 hours of getting them from you by email, so email them in. Same thing with anyone who was on the wilds. Send your photos in, and we will put them up on the site. I was just informed the fireworks boat cruise is sold out. Kudos to Barb and Stacy for our field trips. Put a tremendous amount of work into this. It was very popular this year, and those are the fireworks boat cruise is sold out. Upcoming field trips, June 30th, Nelson Kennedy Ledges field trip. A lot more information about that on our website. Go to our website, the calendar page, and that will have all about it. New announcement. We are going to be offering, first time in many years, we're going to offer a portraiture and lighting course. We used to do this quite a few years ago with John Soraya, who is a portrait photographer. Very, very popular in the past. So we are bringing it back. John has agreed to do it. It's a one-time course. It's going to be on 3 Sundays in September, 10, 17, and 24th, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., limited to 15 students. The course fee is $150, and the sign-up is going to be on our website, on the schools page. We don't have it up yet. It will be coming, so just kind of keep tuned to that for ability to sign up. Positions needed. This you're going to be seeing a lot, and you're all going to be getting an email, all members too. You'll see it in the weekly snapshot. I'm starting a campaign. This club runs and is so successful on volunteers. Everyone in the organization is a volunteer. And we're at a kind of a critical mass where we need some future volunteers to step up. And 3 or 4 are co-chair of competition committee, field trip coordinator, a director of fundamentals of good photography, and a website co-director. Again, now we have people in these positions already, but they're going to be transitioning out or need extra help. You'll find on our website, on the home page, you'll find a link to complete description of these. So when you get the email, they'll have a link to the descriptions. If there's any interest, you just email us. Fundamentals of Good Photography is underway, our summer virtual session. You can enroll anytime on our course. It gives you a jump start of learning fundamentals again. And the hands-on portion that you miss by doing it virtually, you could just come in anytime and take on any of the other sessions, since once you pay, you're a student for life. It's free. And our new website is here. It is not coming. It is here. Thanks. Thank you. This was a, thank you. This is truly a team effort. There are a lot of people to be thanked for this as well. But through a team effort, it is here. I think you'll really like it. Some parts are still getting up and running. Once you get your password under the membership, you'll have access to the 2.5 years worth of Zoom videos and whatnot, and private lectures as well. All the field trip galleries are there too, so explore it, look around. And of course, this meeting and all of our meetings are live and recorded on our Cleveland YouTube channel. Go to our website, the home page. There's a YouTube icon. I think that's it right there. It used to be a bigger one, but that's the YouTube icon. When you get to the YouTube, when you click on it, then go to live on the YouTube section, and you'll see all of our lectures there. So, without further ado, those are our talks. Tonight, we put this together because AI is here. AI is here. It must be dealt with. There's a lot of misunderstandings about it, so we thought what we do today is give you a real good going through of it, what it is, how it works from two different perspectives here, and then open it up at the end for discussion and whatnot as well for the club. So the way we're going to do this is John Paganini is going to be talking with you first, and then I will be talking to you afterwards too. We'll have a break in between. So without any further ado, let me introduce you to John Paganini here.
Good evening.
And
Thank you.
we will get underway.
Thank you for clapping. So welcome, and as Rich said, we're definitely excited about tonight. We're going to take a look into the future of photography, the marriage of AI and photography unveils amazing possibilities. We're going to look at it through the lens, and I use that word on purpose, of photography. The boundaries of photography are changing. We can look and embrace these new possibilities that we haven't had before. And this is just an example of typing in the words photographers taking pictures of fireworks at an aircraft demonstration at Mansfield Reformatory. And that is the image that appeared, amongst other ones. You'll see these technologies that we're looking at offer you a couple options, right? And you say, I like this, like that, don't like that. So tonight, we're going to have a little bit of fun. And I'm also going to be talking about ChatGPT. And I'll explain why I'm talking about something unrelated but directly important, if you will, to photography. So I just want to kind of ground us all with some sayings that are out there about technology. Important to know that even though we're talking about some cool high-tech stuff, the human touch is essential and your own creativity. And so we're not taking away that creativity, we're actually complementing it and adding to it. So these are just some of the sayings. It's not a threat to the creativity, as one person said, and the beauty of it lies in the ability to inspire and surprise. But my favorite is really, it's best when it brings people together. So, looking at that, does anybody know where this scene is from? Yeah. I'm just going to play this.
Hello, Hal, do you read me? Hello, Hal, do you read me? Do you read me, Hal?
Affirmative, Dave. I read you.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
What's the problem?
I think you know what the problem is just as well as I do.
What are you talking about, Hal?
This mission is too important for me to allow you to jeopardize it.
I don't know what you're talking about, Hal.
I know that you and Frank were planning to disconnect me, and I'm afraid that's something I cannot allow to happen.
Where the hell did you get that idea, Hal?
Dave,
That's good.
although you took very thorough precautions in the pod
Good.
against my hearing you, I could see your lips move.
So was everybody scared when they first saw this movie? And this is 1969 when AI, was first introduced in 2001, and the computers took control. And that is the latest fear. And I'm here to tell you, it's okay. They're not going to take over. We are the masters of the technology. But this resonates still today, and even more so with the popularity of AI. So let's talk about ChatGPT. Who has heard of ChatGPT and maybe is even using it? Awesome. And I'm telling us about ChatGPT for a couple reasons. One of them is how important it is to what we're going to be typing into the AI to tell it what we're looking for in our images. But the other aspect of ChatGPT is that it can help us in our own productivity in life, when we're doing things on the computer, and that includes those of us who are making a living, selling our photography or any marketing that you may be doing. It's an amazing tool, and those of you who raised your hand may be already leveraging the power of it. But it is what they call a large language model. That means it understands English really well. You can talk to it, and it will talk to you back in context, in a logical sense, and you can actually have a conversation with it as well. You can continue the train of thought. So this is ChatGPT. You'll hear that a lot. And you'll also know that it's not perfect, and it can give silly answers. Just because you ask a computer a question, it may not give you a response that makes sense, but you should always, always check it. So it's been trained on, billions of pieces of information. It scoured the web, articles, blog posts, everything. It understands complex language. It can generate coherent responses, engage in conversation. And that's why it's very important for you, if you're going to engage in a conversation with AI, to craft a statement or a question that makes sense to the computer so you get the results back you're looking for. If you type something in and it didn't come back to you, then it just didn't understand correctly. So you can go back and you can try it again, add a little bit more context, more content. The better and the more clearer you communicate, the better the response back from the computer is going to be, and that holds true with generating artificial intelligence images. And that's generative AI. So I'm taking the time just to quickly go over this ChatGPT thing because they're very related. So for those of us who want to use ChatGPT in business, I'm just showing the slide really quickly. This is just scratching the surface of some of the areas that ChatGPT can help you in everyday life, especially if you're still in business and you're making a living selling your photography and you want to do email communications, writing product descriptions, whatever it is very effective. So let's take this sentence. I asked ChatGPT, how can you help my photography business? Well, customer engagement. You can interact with potential clients on your website, and I realize this is small, sorry about that, but just the point is, it says, well, you could use me as a virtual assistant. You can use me to help select some of the photos and do some of the editing, content creation for your blog, website. I can do market research for you, education and tutorials. So this was a quick answer that ChatGPT gave back to me when I said, how can you help my photography business? And again, if you ask it that question again, it probably would come up with some different variations on that. So when you look at this, you think, oh, that's interesting, but that doesn't work for me, but this does, that's a good idea. Or maybe it's just a confirmation that what you're already doing is right on, according to ChatGPT. So you can look at it from a couple different ways. So I mentioned this prompting thing. So this is the prompt. The prompt is basically how you type in your command to the computer. It's text input that's provided by you. It's a question, a statement, instruction, or any combination. In essence, it's a conversation starter, a request for information, giving ChatGPT the necessary guidance to answer your question or statement. The more specific and clear, the better AI can comprehend your request and give you the desired output you're looking for. For example, how can a photographer boost its online presence? What are some of the tips for making a website look great on any device? Create a list of questions that we could use to start a discussion about portrait photography, as an example. So I'll just do one quick slide on this and then we'll move on because we have some fun ahead of us. Clear communication, saving time and effort, unlock your creativity, minimize effort, all good thoughts for good prompting. And just an aside, there are classes in college right now starting up called prompt engineering. It's actually a course. And there are people who are selling prompts on top of that, which would be interesting in the photography industry if you think about it. Smart photography prompts. So I put this on here too. Again, if you want to look at this some other time, this video, these are all just some of the things that you can ask to help you run your business a little bit better. But why don't we just do a quick little test on the computer. Let's say you wanted to write a lead generation email. And I'm just going to go into what's called ChatGPT here. And then after that, we're going to go into DALL-E. Why don't I type this in? I'm just going to say, ChatGPT, write a lead generation email for wedding photography. Now look how quickly that generated that email for you. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be in your language, your tone, the way that you do business, but it's a damn good start, right? So this is an example of how AI can save time. It's not replacing you. It's just helping you, get the ball rolling and do things. So I just showed this as an example from a business perspective on the power of ChatGPT. So let's move on. So I'm going to first go into Bing.com Create. So DALL-E, and I'm going to talk about DALL-E next, is two that Rich and I decided that I would talk about, and then Rich is going to talk about Photoshop and Midjourney, right? And so Bing, this is kind of free. You get credits when it comes to Microsoft. So anybody know how much money Microsoft spent on ChatGPT? Yes. You know how many billions? 10. $10 billion Microsoft spent on this. So now you can go to Bing.com Create as an example. Now this is the image generator, right? So I'm just going to type in something simple here. And I'm not going to type it. Oh, it's not going to do that. Let me do it from... I have to log in, so I'm not going to bother logging in, but I will do this same thing in DALL-E. So I'm going to move on now into DALL-E in a second. I didn't log in before, but really what you do is you log into Bing.com and create something. But before I do that, let me just go into DALL-E. So Bing.com, if you want to use that, create, you just log in with your normal Microsoft. DALL-E 2 and Bing.com are similar. DALL-E 2 is better, and we'll see why. So this is the powerful AI tool that can generate original images. You first log in by creating an account on the OpenAI website, which I've done. You can look around the DALL-E interface, and from an interface perspective, you will see that if you use Photoshop, DALL-E 2 is very, very easy. Very easy. You input your text descriptions and generate the image, and if you like it, you can keep the image. So I looked it up, and it's $15, and they say 460 images. I haven't seen that many images for $15. It really depends on the complexity of the image, the resolution, and others. I don't know how that meter works. So for me, that number was a little bit lower. So your mileage will vary on that. So there's something in DALL-E, this is not a detailed lesson, as you've seen Rich give at the level of Photoshop and Lightroom, but we are you'll see it and you'll probably get it. But there's a concept called variation. So if you ask it a question, it'll give you a couple images. You can pick an image that you liked out of those, and then say, give me variations on that. So you can, continue to fine tune. And then if you have a picture, let's say, it's a 5x7 or something, and and they're pretty strict about their resolution, 1024 by 768, I think. They have something called outpainting, where if you have the picture here, you could actually add a side to it, or a back, or a top and bottom, and I'll show you that. And they call it DALL-E 2. I thought this was interesting and funny, but they named it after DALL-E and WALL-E from Pixar, and that's how they got the name DALL-E. And this company is called OpenAI, and OpenAI is the big company right now that's doing all this stuff. And this link right here is an amazing book. It's called The Prompt Book. I highly recommend, if you're going to be using DALL-E, to just look up the DALL-E 2 Prompt Book, and it'll come right up. Let me just click on that real quick just to show it. I'm just going to show this book, and because it's an amazing book. It talks about illustration, photography, preface. I'm just showing you that book is rich in content. So let me throw out some tips. I did a lot of research for this just to help us think about how we're doing it, but it works best when you're highly descriptive, get creative, add the adjectives, location, artistic styles. Instead of a text prompt of creature, type in fuzzy creature wearing sunglasses, digital art. So the more you tell it, the more it'll get closer to what you're envisioning your image to look like. Just include details in your prompt. Instead of saying, instead of saying 4 people, say 2 men, 2 women. Create an action. They're standing, running, hopping. You can request a general style like drawing, watercolor, crayon, steampunk, punk. And this is interesting too. You can say in the style of Picasso or Dali. And you can choose a background for easy removal. You can just change the background. I'm going to show you that. So you can use these to write your prompts. And I think I'll do that real quick. Let me see. I'm going to go to ChatGPT right now. And I'm going to use ChatGPT to create a prompt for an image I'm looking for. I'm looking for an image, and we really haven't seen that yet, but I'm just going to show you while we're in ChatGPT. I'm asking it to tell me what the prompt should be that I tell DALL-E 2. So you can get stuck in a loop there. So the prompt I just pasted in was create a prompt to create an image of 5 best cameras on the market racing around the ocean. And this is what it came up with. Now you can't paste this into DALL-E 2 because it's too much text. I've tried it. So there is a limit. I don't know what the text limit is, but so I'm asking the computer to tell me what I should ask it. So if anybody got stuck in that loop, we're going to get out of it right now. So, all right. Got a couple more slides, and then we'll begin to play a little bit. All right. So, as photographers, that is the essence of this class. So, I'm showing us now how you can talk to DALL-E 2. And Rich, I don't know how smart Photoshop is yet, or Midjourney, but I imagine it's pretty close. So you can say a close-up, black and white, studio photographic portrait of whatever, dramatic backlighting, 1973 photo from Life magazine. That's pretty specific. And another one here, a vibrant photograph of subject, wide shot, outdoors, sunset photo at golden hour, wide angle lens. And I have a couple of examples of this because I thought they were great. But you can think about it. So as professional photographers, you know all this. You know how to ask these questions from a technical perspective, from a composition perspective, from a creative perspective. When was the photo composed? What is the emotional vibe? How close are we to the subject? What's the depth of field? What's the light source? Where's it coming from? Natural light, color? Where is it shot? This is where it gets very fun. And this is where our creative expertise and experience really comes into play. So, angles. And this came out of the Dolly 2 prompt book I just showed us. You can say, I want an extreme close-up, just a close-up, medium shot, long shot, extreme long shot. And here it's given some examples, a close-up of a woman's face, captured in a low light with a soft focus. I'm sure your minds are opening now as to the possibilities as you see these types of things that you can tell the computer you're looking for. Let's just do this in here. You can edit your images in Photoshop Lightroom, once you create it. This image right here was a digital art of a portrait of a Chinese man holding a DSLR camera, facial expression, white background, cute Pixar, and a 3D render. All right. All right, we'll just play, but I'm going to show, I think I'll show this slide after we play with Dolly 2. So I have Dolly 2 running, and I'm going to log in. And this is as simple as the interface is. It's showing some cool things that you can do down here, just examples. But all you do is type in right there. Now you'll see here, it says upload an image to edit. We're going to do that too, because that's where we as photographers are going to have the most fun with our images. So the first thing I'm going to do is just paste in, and I did these already, but I wanted to make sure that we weren't held up by my inability to type well. So I'm saying a film still, establishing shot of bustling farmer's market on a Greek island, golden hour. So I saw some prompts out there, and I just changed them a little bit. And these are the 4 pictures that came up. Let me read that again. Film still, shot of bustling farmer's market on a Greek island during the golden hour. Now, you won't always get perfect human faces and fingers and stuff, so it's got some funky things that go on once in a while. But this could be a good start for something.
So are these real photos put together, or is this all
I think the answer is yes to that. Yeah, yeah, I'm sorry. The question was, are these just real photos that they grabbed off the internet and found them? The answer is no to that. Yeah, these didn't exist. But somehow the AI went out there, found photos that matched all your criteria, and then brought them together. And they call it, I think, diffusion, if you've heard that term, right? So they kind of make it noise, and then they denoise it afterwards to bring it together. And I've read some of the approaches on how they do it, and so these photos don't exist anywhere. But they probably came from existing photos out there as it brought them together.
One last question. Are they pixel-based then, or they're vector-based?
I believe these are pixel. But I don't know that for sure. All right, so this one here, and it takes a minute to generate, as you see. This is a Kodachrome photograph of a stylish Italian woman listening excitingly on a princess phone outdoors in downtown Cleveland, etc. I see Cleveland in there, and that could be Cleveland. I'm not sure about that. So of course you can see the creative imagination that you could do with this. You can really just try to have it whatever you can come up with, or whatever you're looking for in a photo. All right, I'm just going to do a couple more just to give us a feel for the types of questions and things you can request. A double exposure of a lighthouse and a 1955 wooden boat as pop art. So the interesting thing that I'm seeing, since I have already done these all before, is that sometimes they're different. This looks familiar, that one doesn't, and so it doesn't always generate the exact same thing based on the exact same question. I'm just going to grab this one right here, and you can see I'm clicking on something. You can click on edit, and we'll do this in a minute, but I can click on variations as well. So I just clicked on variations on that, and let's see what it does. This I haven't tried yet. Interesting, but maybe, closer to what we might have been looking for in our original way that we envisioned that question. Okay. So this one just came out really nice. This is the Cleveland skyline from Lake Erie in the style of Thomas Kincaid. Very cool. So since I said Thomas Kincaid, we didn't see a photographic quality, right? In that we wanted some artistic rendering. All right, we'll have, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do maybe one more because this is fun, and then I'm going to show us some photography more oriented towards true photography. This is a snow globe, spaceship landing on Mars, steampunk style. Okay. So let's get back to some photography. All right, so this is a film still, two construction workers arguing intently over their shoulder with colorful cinematography. So this will be photo quality. Completely generated from the ether. And you can see how sometimes the faces are a little bit off. And depending on if you really like the image, of course, and you're really good at Photoshop or other tools, you could fix that. So I'll just show you something right now. I'm going to select, no, I'll do another one. Okay. So let's play a little bit, and I'm going to show us some editing, but I'm going to show us editing on something it generates as opposed to a picture. I have a couple of pictures I can pull off the PC, and we'll do that. But this is an oil painting of a boy in a red coat, sat on a boulder in a misty woodland clearing, campfire in the background, warm glow, fantasy art. So which picture do we want to play with? 1, 2, 3, or 4? 4? Okay. Okay. What should we do to this picture? Anybody want to volunteer a change to this picture? Background? Change what? Change the color of the rocks. Change the color of the rocks, okay. So, see this eraser, this very familiar eraser, which is too big? I'm just going to go to the right here. I'm going to make the eraser a little bit smaller. Take the eraser. And what color should they be? Okay, purple it is. I think I can just say purple. Let's see what happens. I think it's that simple. I think we have to be more specific. Yep. See what they did? Yeah. So this is where it helps to be more specific, right? What we can do is also change the dress there, or their red smock, or the background. I think I'll do that with a real photo so we can see how we can manipulate our photos. So this time I said change the rocks to purple. It didn't really do a good job of that at all. But let's have a little bit of fun with that since we're here. This is what they call the generation frame. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to show you now that we can say add a drive-in movie theater. How's that? I haven't tried this yet, so hope you don't mind the experimentation. So that frame that's here is going to bring the size of the picture out, but it's also going to look at what's in there to try to bring it together. So that one was terrible. Let's look at another one. So you get 4 choices. So there's a little bit of a movie there. Yeah. Not much, but you can see the car. But you see how it kind of tried to match the look and feel and bring all that in. All right. All right, so this is going to be an interesting one. Again, we're just giving some context here. Oil painting of 2 women standing waist deep in water, mysterious underground lake, flooded cavern, ripples, and heavenly lighting. It's pretty dramatic. These came out actually pretty close to the same when I did it the first time. Okay, so now I'm going to bring in an image. So let's have fun with this. And I'm going to bring in Liz Taylor. I had another picture of Jane Goodall. So when you do the picture, you can crop it. You kind of have to crop it. You don't have to, but it works best when you crop it. You can leave it the original size if you want, but I'm going to go right, and you can generate variations on that. Why don't I just do that just to see what that does? I haven't tried this yet. So we'll look at variations on Liz Taylor as Cleopatra. And why I picked Cleopatra is because, wow. So you see how this one didn't turn out too good and the other ones, but yeah. So that's a variation on a photo that got pulled in.
So it knew different artists, that if you told it to generate a picture of Liz Taylor, it would know who she is?
I haven't tried that, but I think it knows certain people. I tried it with, let me try it. I'm going to give it some color and say a photo of Liz Taylor in a framed oil painting above a fireplace, ornate golden frames in a Victorian study, detailed digital illustration. And we'll find out. Wow. Okay, this one was kind of close, but you can see the face didn't turn out, but that was interesting. And maybe why I want to use the real picture. So it kind of knew who Liz Taylor was. But I did say, detailed digital in this illustration there. So let's pull up Liz again and see what we can do with Liz. So this is where, you have your photos, maybe you're doing portrait photography or something, and again, you saw that we can erase, so why don't we change the dress here, and what should she be wearing? Okay, I'm going to say costume. Poor Liz. All right, so this is going to be Liz in a clown costume. We wonder. Kind of got that, and that one's kind of fun. She looks a lot skinnier in that other one. All right. Good question. Very funny. Very funny. Okay, let's do another one. So we can also get rid of the background. I'll show us how to get rid of the background and replace it with something interesting. We'll take Jane Goodall. And I'm going to get rid of this background here. Why don't we just do this? We'll say... So what I did again is I just masked this side, so that's where the AI is going to put whatever we tell it. I might not have explained that well before. So now we're going to give Jane a monkey. So high quality photo, realistic, loving and caring monkey holding on to the lady. Yeah, that one looks a little spooky. Who thinks that's amazing? It is amazing. Okay. Maybe pick this one here, and again, we can change Jane's dress again, or we can change the color. And we could do other things. We could change this background, right? Put Jane in the jungle, where she spent so much time. I'm just going to type in dramatic African jungle. Simple. No details. Because there's not really a lot of space in that area, unless we extended it with that, what they call the generation frame. Yeah, so did a little bit there, a little bit there. Let's take that to the next level. All right, so let's take this and edit it. And the first thing we're going to do is get rid of the background, right? Why don't we do, I did something funny and it seemed funny, so I'm going to try this again. Since that's a jaguar, I'm going to say a cartoon-style jaguar drinking a beer. That's funny. They're both good, actually. There's a couple good ones. Yeah, I like that one too. All right, so why don't we do this? This is what we're going to do with this one. We're going to change the background, and any thoughts on where we should put this? Anybody want to throw? Oh, that is awesome. Good idea. You don't have to be very particular because the AI will do its integration thing. Just New York City, any special area of New York?
Manhattan.
All right, Manhattan skyline, maybe? At night?
That'd be great.
How about from the Hudson River? Let's just go crazy.
Oscar Mayer,
Well, We can put that next to it as a,
It's the Frankmobile now.
there was an ad for that for drivers. Wow. Wow. For some reason, I thought a giraffe was important. Wow. Good stuff. All right, so let me show you this frame thing, because this is where the power really comes in. So I'm intersecting it a little bit. And so now we're in New York City. What would be an additional right side of that picture that might be interesting? The Statue of Liberty, love it. That's good stuff. And what color is it? Let's change the color. Pink Statue of Liberty, love it. Okay. Let's see how smart it can be. I really haven't challenged it with, let's see what it does. So I said pink Statue of Liberty looking down at the car. Let's see if we can actually get that smart with it. Wow. But look at how it integrated everything in that. So this is just one of four. Let's see what else it did. Whoa. That's another thing. Sometimes it has no boundaries. One must be careful. All right. And let's go a little bit. So so you have to accept it. Just the interface says accept what you got there. But let's put one on the other side. And another suggestion from the audience on the background.
Ferry in the Hudson River.
I'm glad you didn't say a 747.
Darn, you took my idea.
You want a Captain Sully up there?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, well, so it had it kind of integrated it a little rough. There, that looks a little bit better. So it's funny where the car is now, where it's putting it. That is funny. A Jaguar amphibicar. That is funny what it did with that. Wow. It made it, it tried to make it a boat. It made it the ferry. That is really interesting. Wow. Yeah, let me show you how to save it. It's simple as clicking that, right? And there it is. There's the picture. Yeah, this thing. So you could, you could take those out, right, and put them on a moon or something. Does anybody want to try anything else? Because that was really all I wanted to demo, is the wild and interesting capabilities of bringing your images into the AI and then taking it there with creativity and imagination that has no limit, obviously. But the tool, as you saw, at least for DALL-E 2, is pretty simple. You can upload the image and mask what you don't want in the image, add your object, and save it. That's funny. I had something similar to that. I'm gonna show you what I did there. So what do you want? 2? All right. And what's in the background? Over a volcano? Over an erupting. Yeah. Sorry, I can't type that well. we might see that Statue of Liberty again, if that's the case. Wow. Yeah. Okay. Oh, I think I spelled volcano wrong. No, that could have been the problem. Let me show you something that I did from a photography perspective. This is a Canon R5, a Nikon D7500, a Fuji, a Leica, a Sony, a Polaroid as an Andy Warhol painting. Very interesting. So one of the things that we kind of saw was you can tell it what type of camera you want the image to be showing. Like you took it from a, let's say you took it from a Canon R5 or whatever. Let me show you this right here that I played with. This is an icon of a Canon 7D camera in a metallic rainbow iridescent material, 3D render, isometric perspective, rendered in Cinema 4D on a dark background. Yeah, that is a G's. Some of the content I got from another prompt.
And it blended it well.
Yeah, it's amazing. The trick, as I saw, was if you say Cinema 4D, then you get some really interesting. And then you say iridescent.
Isometric.
Yeah.
And if you save that, that's one image of your $15.
Yeah, you know, I should have looked at the beginning of the session. What I have, 100. I have 100. I think I had about 200. So I can't see it up in the corner there, but I have 137. So we probably used at least 50 to 60 of the credits, the $15 worth of credits. That downloads as a JPEG, yes. Yep. Also, you can create collections. I have an example of a collection out here. I call it Emerging Technology, but I can click on Collection, and these are ones I for snow and ice. It's Emerging Technology, but you can create your own collections, if you will, and save them there as well. And share it, of course. Click share and copy the link. Okay, so I'm going to close, and I have one just final slide. I just put some final thoughts now that you've seen this amazing stuff. Just some thoughts that probably you're already thinking. Yeah.
If history proves anything, it's that any technology is going to be abused. Does it have any limits to what it will draw?
I have no idea. I haven't tested it in
We'll answer that in the
yet.
next segment.
Yeah, maybe-
There is
maybe
an-
Rich
there is
knows.
an answer for that.
Yeah,
We'll answer it.
okay. I don't know the boundaries. Yeah.
How can you tell the difference between when the AI generated photographs that you're going to show?
How can you determine what an AI projection is compared to a camera taking picture?
Yeah. We're going to talk about that afterwards, because, and Rich, maybe you know about the Photoshop authenticity type of program. So they're trying to come up with an authentic program so you can tell the difference
Yeah,
between the two.
we're going to go into the
Yeah, good,
Photoshop
good.
authentication.
Yep.
I just wanted to share real quickly, Photoshop's doing a lot of what you're showing too.
Yeah.
Most recently, they have a selection tool, and then you can just type what
Yep.
you want in the picture, and it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, we're excited about that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And the reason for this was to show us what's out there, and Rich has got 2 of those coming up. So yeah, I think these are the 3 big ones, right? With DALL-E and Midjourney and Photoshop, of
And
course.
Photoshop.
So I think the most natural place for us is Photoshop. So, and speaking of that, you'll be thinking about which AI editing tools do I use. If we know Photoshop, no reason really to leave that software. And in answer to that, your question, how do I maintain the authenticity of the work? That's something for us to think about and talk about. And as I said before, you find that balance between artistic expression and efficiency. That is, I'm using the tool to get to me where I want to go quicker, and then I can take over with my artistic. So you can look at AI in that way as well. And you don't lose your personal touch while relying on the editing tools. Preserve your artistic vision. That's essential. And as a form of art, photography remains a combination of creativity and, of course, emotion. It's a tool that you can expedite these certain tasks and even offer suggestions. One thought is, if you have an idea for a photo, you just type it in and then see what the photo looks like, and then you would go outside and actually compose the same photo. You got an idea of what it was going to look like thanks to AI. You could reverse the situation. Use the AI first, get an idea, and then go out and take that same picture in real life. So your personal artistic vision will always be the final decision, as with anything. AI is being used all over the place, like in healthcare. So when AI contributes to the information, the doctor, in that case, will make the final decision based on the information at hand. The same for you as photographers. So after the AI does its thing, you apply your talent, expertise, and judge it, and get to the vision you're looking for. So I think, Rich, we'll take a break now.
Okay, yeah. Now, I want you all to rest, not just go to the bathroom, and rest your minds. Because, okay, you saw a little bit here, but the second part, we're going to be talking about what this means to the club, how does this fit in, how does it affect my competitions and whatnot, and we're going to be going through Midjourney and Photoshop now, which has gone to the AI model. So we'll take a break and come back, and also at the end of that, we're going to have a thing for the audience, questions and whatnot. I really want a lot of opinions. So let's take a 5-minute break, and we'll go from there. Oh, that's. Yeah, that's. let's try to make our way back in. I'll start to bring up the slide. We'll slowly start to. Okay. Okay. Okay, we'll get ready to start our second part now. Let me turn down the lights. And this is going to be a little bit different because we're not only going to go through Midjourney and Photoshop, show you what this can do and what it is, but a lot of the discussion that all photo clubs need to have on what does this mean to us, what does this mean to our competition, what does this mean to our rules, what does this mean to everything. So I'm going to go through some of that. Now, the opinions expressed here are mine and not necessarily valid. And I don't put these out at all as the way things should be done. But I want to stimulate you to really think about this. So here goes. AI photography. The question mark. That's really it. Now, images, when manipulated and produced in this presentation, were done through Midjourney and Photoshop Beta. I always like to start at the beginning. The book of Exodus is where I'm going to start my talk. In the beginning. And the reason I start it like this is because one of the common misconceptions I get about AI when people come up to me is this new thing. It is not new. It's been around a while because in the beginning there was JPEG. So don't talk to me about reality. Oh, it's AI. It's got a waterfall. That waterfall isn't real. Okay. What is a JPEG? A JPEG's a great file because it's compressed. Well, compressed, what does that mean? I'll tell you what it means. It's compressed because it throws out pixels. The way it works is the JPEG file is small because pixels are thrown out. They're not put on the side, they're thrown away. And when you open it again, it puts in by an algorithm pixels that it thinks should be in that spot. And that's why, with this kind of compression, theoretically, if you open and close a JPEG enough, it degrades a little because you're throwing away pixels and you're just inventing new ones. Now, after 1,000 times closing and opening this, is that picture of a tulip still the real tulip? I mean, 25% of its pixels have been replaced. So that's not original pixels anymore. Those have been put there by algorithms. That's AI. Now, they're very crude algorithms, but nonetheless, a JPEG that's been opened 1,000 times is not the original image anymore. So we'll start with that as a basis in the beginning there as well. So what is photography? Reality, captured on a glass plate. That's what it used to be in the 1860s. It's reality captured on film. Okay, fine. Then we advanced a little more. And now it's reality captured on a sensor. Now, what is our creative competition at Cleveland Photographic Society? It's reality captured, then altered greatly by software. Similarities? Reality was involved in both. This is kind of paraphrased from our rules at CPS. So, reality was involved, and an image capture device, a camera, was involved. Okay, we have some connection here. But I wanted to see what is photography. So I went to the absolute, the key thing. I know. After Snapple caps, this is my go-to thing, Wikipedia. And Wikipedia, what is photography? And typically, a lens, and they put that in blue too, a lens is used to focus the light reflected or emitted from objects into a real image on the light-sensitive surface inside the camera during a timed exposure. With an electronic image sensor, this produces a blah, 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 electrical charge, which is electronically processed and stored for subsequent display or processing. I read that. Now, I don't expect a lot of you to jump to a certain thing, but I read that. And keep that in mind for a second. It's using a lens to focus things on a sensor, which is then processed by software. If then, given that definition, with my background, I said, wait, this sounds, if the lens and the retina are valid recording devices, so in other words, how do we see an object? We see that rose. Well, wait, the light goes through a lens in our eye. There's that word lens. The retina, it hits the back of our eye, is a sensor. A retina is an electronic sensor. And then it translates that light into electrical impulses, which goes to the brain, the software that is processing the information. And then, if the hands or the hardware the software uses to translate the data to a fixed image, then is the drawing of an object or scene in front of you, which is reality, which we define as art, also a form of photography. It just makes you think. You take that Wikipedia definition, it says photography is, its light's got to go through a lens, hit a sensor, processed by software, and made into an image by hardware. Well, you could make that case. That's exactly what happens when you draw a picture. So this whole thing, we have to keep an open mind in terms of the definition. When we say, oh, photography, well, that's not art, it's photography, something completely different. Realizing that there are a lot of blurred lines here. But that was simple. Now we'll get to the tricky part. That's the key thing. Artificial intelligence artwork. We could have several types. AI enhancement of a photographic images, like you saw John do. We take a photographic image and enhance it. AI creation of a photographic-like image without a camera ever having been involved. So the spectrum, we could have a photograph. We could have a photograph manipulated by software, which is what our creative competition is. Or we could have the software creation without a camera ever being involved. So we see it's not just an AI photograph. There's all different gradations. We tend to think about the creation without a camera, but as John showed you, we could also use our photographs. Now, a photograph of a tulip. Just imagine tulip. Now we take that in Photoshop with our painterly effect for the tulip to look like a painting. And we have it so it looks exactly like a painting. And then we have a painting of the same tulip. Well, what's the story here? I mean, basically is we have taken a photograph, we've made it look exactly like a painting. How is that now photograph that is made to look exactly like a painting and the painting any different? Could not then the artist say, wait a second, you shouldn't be doing that? So we see there's this gradation here. Now, here's a suggestion. Our creative category, by definition at CPS, is a photographic image with software manipulation. Art are works created and looks like a photograph without the use of a camera or photograph. Now, how is this going to work? Now, we will get into it later, Midjourney. Midjourney and DALL-E are the two photo generators as well. Midjourney works on a subscription basis. It's $10 a month, and you get a certain number of images. And what Midjourney does, and we'll go through this, it's the same thing. You'll have image prompts. And then you'll have other parameters to put in, and we'll go through all of that as well. But it's the thing, we're going to be giving it directions. Now, this is important, and the directions and the image prompts are key. And then it's going to, and we'll go through the interface. Now, here is a photograph I took in Vietnam. And just to show you some of the limitations and whatnot, this is an older guy. He's obviously stooping down with the young kid. So I told it basically, I imported that photo and told Midjourney to put good shoes, dress shoes on both of them, and glasses on him. You know, dress him up as well. Now, one of them I got, you'll notice the shoes, but it couldn't tell. It just thought he was a dwarf. So there are limitations. By the way, what John said about prompts is true, because you have to, once you start understanding this limitation and these might happen, I told it another time I wanted a dark background. And I got ghosts and goblins in the back. When I said, wait, because it was using the word dark as a dark thing, like, you know, that type, as opposed to, no, then I had to change it to, I want a black background and whatnot too. So prompts mean everything. You get a variety, just like you do with DALL-E, and you could see some of them are pretty good as well. Here is a picture that I took in Israel several years ago, one of the Orthodox. I put this into Midjourney and told it that I wanted a different background, a background of a desert scene and whatnot. And you get that. So this is using your own photograph, so it's technically using your own photograph. So the quality, again, tends to vary. Here's where it gets interesting, too. And again, it'll vary from photograph to photograph. Here is a picture that I took of a Berber on the Sahara Desert. I took this in, and I wanted some variations. I said, do this, use my background, and I want the Berber, I want him to have this certain kind of look. I described the face he had and whatnot, and at the end I told him I wanted a red turban and sunglasses. But when I just said, I want to be serious about this, is let's take my photograph here. I uploaded this, and I want a nomad that has this particular look. You got that. Now, this may be not completely photographic quality, but some of these are pretty good. So these are using my background, and this, it took a little bit less of the second one. There's the one I told then. You could see sometimes with faces, it'll have a little quality that you could tell is more painterly than photographic, but we're going to see some really close things. But again, this is using my photograph and the basic kind of outline and stance of the person I had there. Now, is this new technology? It gets back to my JPEG thing. Here's a case. Looks like it came right out of DALL-E or Midjourney. But this is actually from, this software was re-released. This is actually from quite a while ago. This is a Photoshop plugin. This is from 2022, but actually this was first released, this program, about 5 years ago as well, to generate things. So these are just, I've analyzed blah, blah, blah. I just took this right from, this is the ad itself. So this is an ad for a Photoshop plugin. So mainly, before AI was even around, a few years ago, there was software showing you how to make pictures like this in Photoshop. So when we look at some of these AI-generated images, say, oh, that's kind of fake, or that's adding things to, this has been around for a while. This I want you to look at closely, because this really becomes important in our discussion. Here's another plugin, Photoshop and Lightroom, where this mattboxley.com was saying, take a picture, one of your photographs of a bunch of flowers, like that, and then you press the button, and it does all the Photoshop and Lightroom manipulation and whatnot to turn it into an abstract painting. Okay? Now, follow my tutorial to learn how to create it. This is all in Photoshop years ago. My point is, if we entered that in our pictorial or creative competition. No one would think anything of it. This was a photograph. It's, manipulated. And now, what was your creativity? Your creativity is you pressed a button. Don't tell me you lined up those tulips or whatever they were correctly or whatnot, because you can't. This is an abstract painting. On the part of the photographer, what did you do? You bought the program and you pressed the button as well. Does this look anything remotely like those? No, it's an abstract work of art. But yet we have no problem in our competitions with this, saying, yes, this is valid. Why? Because it started like that, which is kind of a funny logic. It started like that, button and got this, so this is a valid piece of photographic work showing my creativity and skill. But again, this has been around for a long time, and we've not had any problems accepting things like this. So with that in mind, looking at some of these new AI-assisted things as well is not a big stretch at all. So let's do a test, okay? You ready for this? I'm going to show you 4 types of images. A painting, a totally generated AI image, a pure photograph, a photograph with AI manipulation. 1, 2, these are in random order. 3, 4, threw in another one, just 5. Okay. Again, remember, these are all now, I don't know about you, they look pretty damn similar to me. Okay? And I'm not going to ask which one people think is which. Let's just show. That is a photograph of pears. That is a straight 100% photograph. That is a painting of the pears. That is AI-generated image. There are no pears. There is, there is another AI-generated image. That is AI only. And that is a photo of pears with AI manipulation. So, the lesson of that is when we think of AI as, oh, that's a fake waterfall there, or this, or yeah, it's just like the definitions kind of come together. Where is the line between art and AI and photography? So I think that's really the key. And this was brought into the public attention most recently, some of you might have heard, at the really, really prestigious 2023 Sony World Photography Awards, where a German photographer entered this image. I'm going to pronounce his name wrong. I'll have it up here in a second. Eldgesen. This image in the creative category called Pseudomnesia, the electrician. And Boris Eldgesen. He is a German photographer who has impeccable credentials. He's done a lot of work with AI recently in the last year or so, but he is also a well-established German photographer. And what he did is he entered this in the creative category, and it won first place. And this is entirely AI generated. There is no photograph. And before I get to a statement, what he did, and I've listened to him talk, he entered this not expecting to win or trying to win. He entered this because he was frustrated that photography organizations and societies were not dealing with AI, not accepting it, but not dealing with it, just kind of pretending it wasn't there. And his point was, we have to have discussions in the photographic community. We have to. And one of the ways he thought to do that is he thought he would enter the Sony Awards, and just to see if it got by the judging, and if it did, then say, look, this is, ridiculous. This never should have. We got to start talking about this. You got to start looking at that. What is the, how could this get past judging? We need standards. How are we going to do this? And basically, because he never expected to win, and he declined the award. He said, I did this just to make a point. I don't want the award. This is not even a photograph as well. But his point was, though, he says you have to keep an open mind. He wants the discussion because, as John pointed out in the previous lecture, the work that Sony has chosen is a result of a complex interplay of prompt engineering, in-painting and out-painting, that draws on my wealth of photographic knowledge. For me, working with an AI image generators is a co-creation which I am the director. It is not about pressing a button, as John has shown, and done it is. It is about exploring the complexity of the process, starting with refining text prompts, then developing a complex workflow and mixing various platforms and techniques. His point was that it's not just give me a picture of this and it spits it out. As John said, the more specific you are, the better. I listened to him talk, and he made the point. A lot of people think, oh, give me a picture of my mountain, or here's a picture of mine, and do it in the style of Ansel Adams. And it does that and looks like, kind of Ansel Adams. His point is there's very little skill in that, and you get a half and half response. But what is an Ansel Adams painting? What is an Ansel Adams photograph? What makes it an Ansel Adams photograph? He said a good photographer who knows photography is able to, if he studied Ansel Adams' work, be able to describe what makes Ansel Adams' work. He has a wide tonal range and be able to describe it in, let's say, 2 paragraphs, the style. Well, that 2 paragraphs of describing the style of Ansel Adams' photograph, if you're a photographer, nowhere has Ansel Adams' name in it. But for you to say, I want a picture with very wide tonal range, with deep blacks, that that accentuates, this kind of thing, to do that takes the skill of a photographer. So when he gets works that look like Ansel Adams, it's because he had the photographic ability to translate what makes an Ansel Adams picture an Ansel Adams picture. So his point is that there is a lot of skill with this in the generation of an image. So we're talking about the pure generation of an image, not combining it. So with that, there is also a confession. And I hate to say, I followed all the competition rules, I did. But some of my submitted images for CPS competitions have been manipulated by AI. I say that. Why? I use Topaz. Topaz Sharpen AI. AI-powered image sharpening that produces natural results. How is an image sharpened in Photoshop? It's an optical illusion. What it does is it detects edges, and it darkens the dark and lightens the lights on either side of the edge, so it gives the appearance of being sharper. So, gives the appearance. When Topaz came out a few years ago, this was revolutionary because it sharpens not by lightening lights and darkening darks on either side of edges. It's actually using AI and redrawing. If it thinks an image edge is not sharp, it'll take that edge and the area around it and redraw the area around it, put different content there that it thinks should have been there to make it a sharp edge. So that's why images that are actually blurry can be made to look sharp, even if you go in real close, because it's actually adding content. That's AI. It's AI-generated content. So anytime you use Sharpen AI, you are using AI to generate artificial content for your images. Just recently, Lightroom Lightroom added a new denoise, reduce noise with AI. So now, in this last few months, with Lightroom having this as well, you go to denoise a picture, and it is using AI to actually replace pixels in certain parts of your image. It is replacing content. So, you are using AI there, reduce noise with AI. The old content-aware fill. Here is a photograph as well. When I took these out extensively with Photoshop to make that image, well, what's behind here? It went through there. There should be a white, if you just take these things out, there should just be a white line there as well. But why is that the actual rock and this sand there too? Because Photoshop has used AI or algorithms. Remember, algorithms, AI are algorithms. They're just very powerful. But these are algorithms. So Photoshop has used AI to determine, based on what was around on either side of that thing I took out, and it redrew. It added content. So every time you use content-aware fill in Photoshop, you are using AI to add content. Now, why wake up at 6 a.m.? This is a photograph, this is a Midjourney generated one of its sunrise. Here it is with a rainstorm coming. Here it's actually raining. I just kept telling it, make it night with the Milky Way above. Make it when it's snowing. I mean, you don't have to get up anymore. Just generate your images as well. I mean, I didn't get no skin off my chest on this. So, CPS, Creative Competition Rules. So these are lifted right from the rules as they exist now. Creative. This category is designed to stretch the creativity of entrants. Images must depict a fairly obvious creative element, either due to subject matter, in-camera effects, or through extensive digital manipulation. Where does AI fit in? That is up for us as a club to decide. Is it digital manipulation? Manipulation usually means moving things around. But in AI, we're generating content. But we've been doing that, as you see, for a while anyway. It's just now available to a different degree. Pictorial competition at present is anything goes. So basically, as written now, you could put an AI image in there too, and it would qualify technically. All this is meaning is no one's going to run out and do this, and of course we're not going to have that, but we need to really rethink this. Past creative competition entries. This is from CPS here. Glenn Petronic. Okay. So when we look at these, and we look now at some of the images you've seen created by AI, and we say, oh, those look, just fantasy-like and whatnot too. Well, this is what we're putting in creative. Russell Whittemore, phenomenal photographer. This is, if I showed this and told you it was an AI-generated image, you'd say, forget that. You can't have that in competition, or that's generated, or that didn't exist in real. If this existed in real life, I'm out of here as well. But basically, this is Brian. There you go, Brian. You made the cut there. Beautiful shot. The orbs. These are beautiful ones too. These are in competitions already. These are all valid because they started out as photographs and whatnot too. Now the hard part. You're the judges now, okay? You are competition judges. You tell me if this qualifies and explain your reasoning. Okay, this is a picture I took of one of the large dunes in the Sahara Desert, okay? You all know what that is. You enter that, should that be allowed? I'm not talking in the strict rules. I mean, basically, it's somewhere in our competition structure, in the club. It's a sky replacement. It's a Photoshop sky replacement. And I don't think anyone would have any problem saying, no, and probably pictorial or something. That would fit. I have no problem with that. Okay, no problem. By the way, this was my picture, and I put it in Photoshop and used the sky replacement. Okay, that's my picture again. I put it in Photoshop and I put it in Midjourney, and I told it, use my photograph there and combine it, and I want a nomad riding on a camel. That's pretty darn good. And it's using my photograph as well, so that's technically 50% my work there. Not bad. I mean, this is getting close. This is, pretty good looking. And if you think, well, I could tell, maybe this is, a little generated and things too. A month or two from now, that could be spot on. I mean, this technology is moving fast. But here's my dunes in the background. Now, to complicate this discussion, if it wasn't already complicated, and by the way, it brings up the point, if you're going to let the sky replacement in, then, which is basically AI-generated sky to that picture, then why not this? This is an this is original sky, and this is an AI-generated camel. This is an AI-generated nomad. The other was an AI-generated sky. But the sky one, we have no problem saying, okay, that's in pictorial, that's okay. So I'm trying to get you to see is that we've been doing a lot of this stuff already. So now to make it a little complicated is Photoshop. This is Farhad Manjoo, who is excellent. He's the tech columnist for the New York Times, and a few months ago he wrote that just released beta feature called Generative Artificial Intelligence in Photoshop. He announced that a few months ago. May 2023. That Photoshop was releasing this beta feature called Generative Fill. Remember that name, Generative Fill. Now, here's back my picture. We talked about sky replacement, and you all said you didn't, but I know you did. Okay, well, we'll buy that. The camel and the guy, I don't know, but I see your point. That's kind of the same thing. Well, Photoshop now, throw in, it's a little crude at this point. This is Photoshop. I didn't use any other program other than Photoshop Beta. I told it basically put a camel here and a little camel caravan there. Now, that's kind of crude, but where this goes, Jeff Hirsch put out a YouTube video, and I took some screenshots from it. He worked extensively with Photoshop Beta. I've been working very extensively for the last 2 weeks with it. And what he did is, and he had some spectacular images, and he also had, it's not just the how-to and whatnot. You've got to listen to these people because they make really good arguments, because we need to hear what are we going to accept, what not, why should I use, why shouldn't I? His point was the baby being blessed in between the Torah scrolls here by the rabbi. And he took this at the temple. And he really loved the shot, the baby here, this. And he just really thought this was phenomenal. This was the image he had in his head. But the problem is this complex structure of the lectern here. Now, in the past, you could use content-aware fill and whatnot, but with the new beta tools there for generative fill, it is real easy to take that out, and it redraws. And you'll notice the structure of the wall, this little piece it took from there. Notice the hair. It reconstructs the hair, the end of her, the door, the Torah scroll over there as well. It is content-aware fill on steroids. I've been using this extensively for 2 weeks, and I could attest to the fact this is real. I've done this a ton of times. His point, though, and this is what I want to drive home, not just the mechanics, but this was his vision. This was the shot. This conveys all the emotion. Should you be penalized for that? If this was photojournalism, of course, this is the way the picture should look. If you're in the studio setting this up, you would move that and you would set up that shot. But when you're capturing these moments of life, why should you be penalized for that? You had the artistic vision. I mean, the lighting, everything else, lining this up, recognizing that this was a perfect shot and everything else. And again, why should you be penalized for that? AI is a tool then to let you complete, your vision as well. And I thought that that kind of logic was one that we should keep in mind rather than the knee-jerk, no, we shouldn't allow things to be taken out. That was the generative part. It is actually generating content there as well for that. Excuse me, that was the fill part. I think I got that right, the fill. The generative part, and this is also Jeff Hirsch here, is this I think was in Iceland, and he put that there, a river, and he told Photoshop, you just draw a little line there and say, put in a waterfall. And Photoshop does that in about 3 seconds. So this is now Photoshop doing these things. So we have to deal with this. Is that right? Was that your vision? Where should that fit in competitions? I can't answer these, but these are important questions that must be dealt with. Now, how have other places dealt with this? I've looked extensively at other camera clubs around the country, organizations and everything, to see what is your statement on AI, how are you dealing with it? And I'll summarize it for you right now. It is, they're sticking their head in the sand. They are not dealing with it at all. 52 Frames, which a lot of you are members, came out with a statement. Mike forwarded this to me. And it said, can I use AI generated like DALL-E or Midjourney to make my photograph? And they go, well, they have a place in the photographic workshop. This is not the heart of this project. AI tools, you shouldn't really be used. If you use it, don't use it too much and whatnot is, I read the statement and it's, what are you saying? I mean, basically, it's make a decision. Give us some guidance. And the answer is like a lot of organizations are doing this. The biggest organization in the world, Photographic Society of America, statement. Creative altered reality images must demonstrate both creativity and altered reality. Creativity of an image is dominant consideration in the competition as exhibit. I'll get a translation of this soon. Imagine if content skill or blah, blah, blah. The image should surprise the viewer. The image must come on. The image must exhibit alteration through the digital post-processing. Such altered reality must be readily apparent to the viewer. I have no clue what that means. Images must originate as photographs. Okay, we're getting some definite things. Image capture of objects via, they didn't need to stick that in. Made by the entrant on photographic emulsion and digitally scanned or directly acquired digitally. Images must be the entrant's own work and not incorporate elements by anyone else. This is meaningless. Why is it meaningless? Images must originate as photographs. Well, we already saw, I put mine in, it used the background of the dunes, but then it went wild with everything else. So you could just put a background of something simple in there, and that's basically your photograph, and create almost a whole digital thing, artificially from that, and it would technically fit under that. And what I felt personally is the PSA statement is complete just avoidance. It's nothing. It doesn't tell me anything. It doesn't deal with the problem. So, and I looked at other camera clubs, and they've not dealt with it at all, too. So, this is something that must be dealt with. So, there we have it. Now, some more examples. I know some of you think, again, that some of the images you've seen, I could tell that's digitally created or, just pure AI and whatnot. But I'm going to show you some other images, and with the caveat that this is exponentially getting better. So don't say, oh, this looks like, it doesn't look like that great, because in a month or so, it's going to be perfect. That is through Midjourney. That is totally artificially created. That's through a prompt that I described the way I wanted the older woman to look, photorealistic, looking at me. I told her where the light, I wanted the light to come from a certain side or whatnot, and it created this. This is 100% artificially created. There is a variation on that. That's pretty darn good. We are getting real close to a photograph. I then told it I had been trying for years. I've been multiple times to the Wailing Wall, the Western Wall in Jerusalem, and wanted to get a picture of the Orthodox praying against the wall. It is extremely hard to do. If you get any kind of close to, they will chase you away and they will beat you with your camera, too. I went this time, I was there a few weeks ago with a 500 millimeter lens, because I was going to outside, and I knew just where I wanted to stand to get it perfectly as well. The person praying against the wall, too. It really didn't work for a number of reasons as well. I tried everything, too. But I had this image in my head of what I wanted it to look like. So I described it in detail in Midjourney, what I want. And some of these are really close to almost photographic quality. This, for decades, is what I had in mind of the image that I wanted to capture. It just shows you the power of this as well. So, now, you have already agreed that these are photographs. Okay? We agreed that's a photograph. We agreed that that was a photograph. So, we are producing art. This is the thing I want to say, is we have to get out of our minds that we're producing a photograph, and that's something different than art. Art is a spectrum. Photography is on that spectrum, but it is a form of art. And the sooner we accept that, the better. We try to wall this off as photography, period. It's not going to work. We've already crossed that line. That ship has sailed, we've seen. We're using AI in all of our things already in Photoshop and Lightroom. So we get back to this picture. This is Photoshop only, no other software. That's Photoshop only, no other software. Now, this wasn't doable up until a few weeks ago, but we have to deal with this now. If we were willing to say, we're okay with that, but we're not okay with this, well, wait a second. It's the same thing. We're going to have to explain why. They're both art. They're both a form of art. Now, questions. What about cloning and healing? Cloning has gone on. We've done, before there was content-aware fill and the healing brush, we had the clone. Remember, those of us old enough remember the clone stamp, where you took this little thing, part of the tree, and you put it over here. Or if you wanted to get this person out of the picture, you took this part and pasted it there. Healing then just took that and actually threw some good algorithms into it. But basically, you are creating content. You're putting content where none existed. When you're using the healing brush, You are removing pixels and replacing it with pixels that weren't there. That is, putting things in that weren't there. What about content-aware fill, which we've been using for years? That is AI-generated content. It's artificial content you're putting in your image. So you see here, we're on a spectrum. What about sky replacement? All of this is, we've been putting in artificial things in our pictures for a long time. Now, generative imaging for minor parts, we'll talk about that in a second. We want to warp your mind. Polarizing filters. You're in the mall, and you see a cool picture of a dress in a window of a mannequin that looks really cool. You want to take that picture, but there's the reflection because it's behind the window. And there's the reflection of the glass there too, your reflection of people or whatever it is in there. So what you do, you take out your polarizer and you take the picture and that reflection's gone. Wait a second. What was reality? Reality is there was a reflection there. You saw it with your own eyes. You put this thing on the front of your camera and it went away. Now you tell me what's the difference between taking the picture with that reflection on it and then in Photoshop using AI to remove the reflection and create, and the real content behind it. And the answer is there is no difference. Here you put a polarizer and removed reality before you captured the image. What we're doing now with AI is the same reflection, we'll take it out afterwards. And to say, wait, that's not good, you can't do that. Why? So these are things we have to address. It's a picture out in the wild, a baby elephant, just happened to be doing what baby elephants do. You travel all that way, you look, the Jeep elephants were rare that day, this is the only one you saw, you happened to find that, it was doing this cute little thing, you took the picture. Now, you're not coming back there, you can't do it again, and you're certainly not getting out of that Jeep. Why should you be penalized for that pop can? Okay? There's your picture. Now, we couldn't submit this in nature because it's hand of man. Or basically, forget hand of man, you'll just say, oh, this is a picture, look, he's got round poop and everything there, and this is a once in a million, but this is there. My question to you, I'm not saying what to do at all, but my question is, why should you be penalized for that? You had the artistic vision, you lined up the shot, you set everything up, and by the way, that can wasn't there. I created that can in Photoshop, so that's roundabout way. I needed a picture with a can in it too. But my point is that if this is your original picture, why should you be penalized? You're not putting this up and saying this is photojournalism. You're not putting this in a category that says you can't. By the way, you should follow all competition rules. If a competition rules say you can't take things out, then you don't take things out, period. You follow the rules. My point is we have to decide what those rules are. Or if you're doing this not for competition, for yourselves, and you go and you take this picture and you have the vision, why should you be penalized on that? There are a number of people that say, I just don't want to remove things that were in the picture. By the way, if your artistic vision is to keep that in because it shows mankind's intrusion into this, that's all perfect. I'm not saying anything about that. But I'm saying if that wasn't your vision, and this is not violating any rules, and this is a photograph that you want to put up on Facebook, you're not representing this on Facebook or Instagram or when you put it on your wall as this is photojournalism. You're saying this is a nice piece of art. I like this. And so that is my question there. I took this picture last week. This picture is in Jordan, the Kingdom of Jordan. And I did this for a reason. This young girl was sitting at this temple wall, and she just happened to be sitting there inside. It was burning hot sun outside, dark as all heck inside. She was just at the right spot, and she was just looking out like that, and I grabbed a quick shot because any of you have ever done candids before, You grab it quickly, because the next thing you know, she was looking the other way and then walked away again. But here's this guy standing here. If I wait for him to move out of the way, like I said, she just walked off. So you can't. The point is, if you're out there doing candids or street photography or things like that, this is your shot. Now, my vision was her beautifully there. So you either have this and say, this is as best I get, and that's it, or since I had a vision of how I wanted this to look, if I could get rid of him, also, that would leave, in the old days of content-aware fill, it would kind of just blacken all this over here too. And that would kind of put it black. So if I could have something in its place that fit with the overall structure. So using Photoshop Beta, so the current Photoshop that's out there, Beta, I again use the generative fill to remove that and put that there. And then with cropping, that was the vision that I had. So to me, I really like this. This was my vision. This was the key element, which was her, capturing her look at me. That, to me, was the artistic component of this. The thing in the background just, is an incidental thing. But it allows you then to complete your vision. Either this is all you've got. Remember, if you were doing studio work, you would place these things all in perfect position. But if you're out there in the field, be it wildlife photography or anything else, either this is all you've got and move on to the next picture, or you were able to get a picture that you say, I really like that. So it's just a matter of keeping an open mind, because to me, I'm not representing this as anything real. I still think this took all of my skill in order to capture this correctly, to recognize this as the photograph that it was and whatnot too. And I just used AI in order to just help me get some of those extraneous things out that I had no control over. So just something to keep in mind. So now we hit the heart of things. Possible new rules. Where does this fit into CPS? And I'm just going to throw out some suggestions out there. I do not make the rules. The competition committee makes the rules at CPS. So basically, this is up to they and the club. So I am just opening up as a forum then. No AI. That ship has sailed. Forget that. It's gone. Your image must be incorporated. No AI. Or no pure AI. But we also showed I could use a simple background and then just do it, and the whole thing is like generated, and it's part of my image. So that isn't really a helpful rule. No generative AI adding. You can manipulate or distort existing images. Interesting. We'll come back to that. Content-aware fill, we have to remember, though, we will have to either outlaw that or further define that, because that is AI-generated content. Sky replacement is too. By the way, topaz sharpen AI. So are we going to say no topaz sharpening AI, but Photoshop sharpening AI? And I'm not trying to be funny or ridiculous in this, but I'm saying these are all things that should be thought about and addressed, since this is a spectrum. Now, may use AI, but not to the main element of the image. That was used for one of the other criteria we saw. And I don't think that's practical, because what's the main element? You're going to stuck in a definitional thing. May remove and fill, but not add a new element. Now we get interesting. And here's where my suggestion's going to be. May remove and fill things, like with generative AI, or removing the things and putting content in there, but not adding a new element. And that could apply to our non-AI categories. Now, here is my final thought of leaving for what I would suggest. I take that back. Not suggest, but to put out there. A creative plus a generative AI category is interesting. Oh, take that back. Here is my idea. Generative fill. Okay. Here is, in distilling this and racking my brain, generative fill. Extremely interesting. Fill. The fill is, even though fill seems like you're adding something, fill is filling in this spot. That's how Photoshop uses the term generative fill. So, for filling, for taking things out and so not adding a new element, but just replacing the background, like we do with content-aware fill, things of that sort too. You could use this in pictorial or other categories. You could say in some way, okay, we'll let you fill in things there in other categories. Generative is the putting in the waterfall, creating new content, meaning like a new object. Now, we could put that in the creative category, but put something like, but 50% of the image should come from the camera. Now, why is this important? Here is the picture of a screaming hawk. I'll put myself on a limb because I know it's not a tulip. I don't know much about birds. Okay, here is the bird diving. Taken with a camera or computer generated. Now, why does it matter? Because that's the question I get asked a lot. What difference does it make? That's just a perfect image anyway. Well, it does matter, and here's the crux of the issue. It matters because if this is completely computer generated and we allow that in competitions, we're in a sense allowing people to be part of our club and compete in our competitions without owning a camera or having any knowledge of a camera. The one thing that binds us as a club is the piece of equipment. We are photographers. We use a camera. We use all this other stuff to help us. But my thing is that once you cross and you allow completely non-camera generated things, then you're in a sense taking away something that, or opening up the club to, again, non-photographers, or it's not really that's a wrong term. But again, the camera is the thing we all have in common. So that would be one way to handle that, was to require some generated images. So these are all, now I'm going to show a demonstration here. First of all, that ends the didactic portion too. Your minds are blown there as well. This is not computer generated, this is a real photograph, no, as well. So let me put up quickly Midjourney here to give that to show you just how that, and I'm going to take a prompt. I'm going to ask you to, let's see, let's bring up Midjourney, and I'll show you what it looks like. And then we're going to open it up to the audience also for any, I want some discussion on this. So here is Midjourney. Down here, there is a prompt as well. So someone give me what do you want an image of? Come on, give me anyone, scream something out. A Mustang car. Okay, let me think this out though. So, because we don't want a Mustang horse though, so we want a 1965 Mustang, Ford Mustang. Yes, okay, that's it, because it's going to give me a horse, I know. Ford Mustang convertible, red, a Ford GT, a Ford Mustang GT, Mustang GT, convertible, red, driven by a monkey, by a monkey. Okay, we got the point. Let's revive it. Now, what I'm going to add to this is photorealistic, 4K, highly detailed. 1986, we wanted a 19, 65. Okay. The key is when I've been using this is it's us as a photo club. I've been trying to get these as photorealistic as possible because that's what we're all looking for. And I'm not an expert on this, but adding terms such as highly detailed, photorealistic, 4K, those kind of things help. So what we do is we do that, we enter it in, and it's going to start to work on this. And this will take just a minute to work there as well. And let me put one more, we'll put a second one in. Let's put give me another one that we could actually make like a photograph. A plant growing on Mars. What kind of plant? A tulip. We're going to have a cactus. Okay. Imagine. Okay. Okay. So a cactus. Let me see. Wait a second. We're going to do a cactus growing on Mars. Create cactus. Photorealistic. Okay. Okay, let's see if it's done working on our first one now. We go to another area here, and let's see. There we go. Okay, so that is our Mustang GT convertible red, and I'll bring this up a little. Now, what we do is I am going to open this in Discord. Now, you'll see that when you do this, it gives us, I could choose any one of these four. So let me take number 3. So I'm going to have blow up 3, and I'm going to give it variations on number 3. Okay, so it'll do that. And now let me go back again. It'll blow that up. So here is our Mustang. And if we look at let's see if it's done the variations yet. Oh, is the monkey? Okay, go back to I think the monkey was there. Did we put driven by a monkey? Okay, let's. Did it? Driven by a monkey. Unless it interpreted as, and see, it's interesting, because when you look back, as John had said, driven by, maybe driven in the past, whatnot, I would have to make that more specific. Sitting in the driver's seat. So if I went back to that, command and open in Discord, and there it is, featuring the, okay. I will copy this. And okay, with a monkey in the driver's seat. Okay, and it's going to generate that. But all the images I showed you before were done on this image generator as well. And it might take a bit to... Okay. It's just gumming up the works now. Okay, you get the idea. The key is you've seen some of the images generated by Midjourney in that the person at the Wailing Wall, the Western Wall, and that other woman, these are ones that you play around with this and you can get extremely photorealistic. You know, this one is actually $10 a month, and you get a 200 images or whatnot as well. You could subscribe on a monthly basis, like do it for a month or two, and then just cancel your subscription too. But it is interesting in putting your own images in and seeing what comes up. So this is what I want to do is open this up now to any of your thoughts on really about this, or what you think, or, you know, good, bad, where should it fit in, anything you have, any ideas at all. Yeah, Bill. Here, let me give you the...
Because this is so new, the legal questions surrounding this have yet to be settled. And is it not true that Midjourney bases a lot of its stuff on Getty Images, and Getty Images is suing these AI companies for the use of its images? Because really, if you use this, you are using other people's work without their permission. So how is that? I mean, that's a legal question that has to be asked. If it generates an image using 80 random images it pulls off the internet, it's still using 80 images from somebody else, probably without their permission. So from what I have read of this is one of the things that is muddying up the works with this from this point on forward. If you generate an image, can you copyright it when in reality that image is based on dozens of images taken by somebody else?
The technology is always moving faster than the law has.
Of course.
This is, in this case, there are several things going on at this point in regards to copyright. One is Midjourney, a lot of these things scrape content from the internet. And we know from some of these where they scrape it from. Others, such as Google, which is putting out there, does not tell you where it's getting its stuff from. So it's almost impossible, since it's keeping that as proprietary information, to know where it's getting its images and things from. So this is one of the things that are going to make the whole legal thing more difficult as well. The other thing in terms of authentication, that question was raised before, is that Adobe is currently working on a project. Just like right now you have the RAW file, which is used for authentication in most things. If you submit an image to a magazine or whatnot, a JPEG, they'll usually want a RAW file, since a RAW file cannot be changed. So the RAW file shows them what the image is exactly, so that it knows no alterations have been made. Adobe is currently working on a type of embedding or something akin to metadata, which can be imprinted so that you will know an image is AI generated or not. Now, this is a huge hurdle, because if you take an image and then scan it or whatnot, you don't have metadata, and it's not really metadata, but they are working on a certification. What makes it also very difficult is that they will need the cooperation of Nikon, Canon, and the other major camera makers, Adobe says, in order to make this work, which at present Nikon is not willing to do. So there are a lot of hurdles, but as you see with a lot of other things, the technology it's not stopping and waiting. It's actually here. We're seeing this in contests, you're seeing this all over. So these things will shake themselves out. And I'm basically more concerned what we do on a local level, not using these professionally or copywriter things too. Those are difficult questions, and I don't have the answers to that, but that'll come up. Yes, here, let me give you a...
One comment, well, two statements, one comment. I like the idea of showing the raw picture along with the AI resultant, and if the CPS wanted to have a competition category where you showed what it was originally and then how you used AI to perfect it side by side, that might be a new category to consider in the competitions. Second point that you didn't mention, if you use the Photoshop beta, your PSD file is over a gigabyte when you get done. And so that's a big file, and if you're putting that like on a free like OneDrive or Dropbox, you do 2 or 3 of those, you've gobbled up all of your space on that. So you've got to put that on your hard drive, otherwise you won't have space for it. Just awareness.
Yeah, no, that's with the Photoshop though, is what you do is it'll make a file up to a gigabyte, but then when you're done with it, you just flatten it, make it 8-bit or something, and it's down to the 1 gigabyte file.
That's if you want to save your PSD file. That's if you want to save your PSD file.
Well, if you want to save it, no, you can keep it as in other words, you take it to Photoshop beta, you do a number of the content, generative fills, and you'll see some of your files go up to a gigabyte. And that's because of the 6 or 7 layers of the generative fill. Every time it does a generative fill, it makes that as a layer. And so you'll have 8 layers and now a gigabyte. But then at the end, if you flatten it then, it goes back to 200 megabytes or what it was before. And that's keeping it at 16-bit. If you really want to save space, if you go to 8-bit or whatnot. But if you want to keep it as your Photoshop file, when you've done your generative fills and now it's up to a gigabyte, you flatten it, it's back to, you have a PSD file that's 200 megabytes again too. That's what I've been doing with them as well. Any other, yes, yes, let me give you, you could yell it out, okay, and by the way, this is just for the people at home could also hear, yes. The relationship between Discord and Midjourney, the way I understand it, I'm not positive on this, is Discord is a server farm, or they are the servers, and Midjourney is the company. The work is being done on the servers of Discord, and then you're opening it in Midjourney, that other program too. Because Discord is used for you'll hear that name being used for other things as well. So it's an unusual arrangement, which I think is you're using the Discord servers as well. Yes, Mick.
It just seems to me that at the very least we should ask for intellectual honesty, so that if you have a picture that you took, but then modified with Photoshop AI.
That is,
It's intelligence generating modifications.
but that's a good point. The point was Mick said that there should be some way that we should identify these as AI was used or AI generated content. But my point to that is we're already doing that with content.
No, because you can pick apart the algorithms that Photoshop uses, even for content aware. But you can't pick apart the AI ones because they are self-creating. In other words, they start with an algorithm that is designed to create algorithms. And then they run those pictures through it.
Yeah.
And the software creates its own algorithms that we don't know.
Well, my question to you,
Can't pick
Okay, my question to you then would be, content-aware fill we're all comfortable with. And we take things out and it generates content. Now, on the one I showed you with the Torah scroll, taking the lectern out, that was done with the beta with the AI. That's basically the same. You're saying that's different? Because it's basically the same thing. The algorithm, right, these are just different algorithms and more powered. Your point is a good point about defining, either having a separate category, defining when we do these manipulations. But I would see as the problem there is these manipulations are a gradation. The putting in the waterfall, well, you're saying it's not a gradation.
No, I don't think so. I think just like I can tell a clone, I mean, I can tell you
Yep.
what the clone did. You know, when you use a clone tool
Yes.
to make something go away, I can tell you what it did. I can't tell you what it did with the AI stuff.
Well, with AI now being, like I said, everything from Topaz to others, your point is a good one that AI is different than cloning or the healing things in terms of the algorithms. But I don't know how we'd ever tell. Those are just becoming so close.
At the very least, let's acknowledge it.
That's a fair point.
Arthur C. Clarke said, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. Right now, we're treating AI like magic.
Okay, that's a
Because we're not talking about what it's doing. We're just showing the effect.
yeah. No, that's
Push the button, this is what comes out.
a good point.
So if it's magic, I'm a little bit iffy about it.
That-
At the very least say, at the very least say, I use magic.
Okay. Any other comments, thoughts? Yes.
I just wanted to make an observation as far as judging, which I do from time to time at this club and others also. So it's going to be fairly confusing. I think it has to start with the club to define categories. I keep coming across a term that I did. It's because all this is based on prompts. And I think I've seen this term used quite a bit, promptography as a category. And I just think things really have to be settled in the clubs as far as categories before you expect a judge to come in and do this, which I'm sure that you're dealing with, but I just thought that.
Oh, yeah, that's kind of the whole point of all this is
Sure.
you're right. My point is we need to deal with this so that you come in, the category, you know this is the category, here's what's allowed, here's what's not allowed. Yeah.
Very, very defined, and it's a challenge. And I wish you well. Again, or maybe just have a specific category that deals with prompts. I don't know if that's possible. Maybe step back away from the big picture a little bit and just go back to some basics possibly. I don't know.
But even with prompts, you're right, and you have to be specific. But in Photoshop Beta, if any of you start using it, and you know to remember that picture of the Torah scroll, and my picture also with that girl, there are no prompts involved in that. And basically there's a prompt involved if you want to generate things like the waterfall. There you put, I want a waterfall there. But when I took out that kid who was next to the girl, and that guy I showed took out the lectern next to the Torah scroll using Photoshop, there is no prompt there. It's a matter of just making a line around it, and just like with content-aware fill, and it takes care of that.
Question.
Yeah, Bill.
Did you not specify put a Buddha in that spot?
No, I did not.
It filled it with whatever.
It filled, there was no prompt, right, that's a good point. The question is, that little Buddha statue in there, that was not through prompt. It gives you 3 variations. So basically is, when I did the circle around that kid, and one of the variations was the kid was out and that was all dark over there. And the other variation was the Buddha statue there too. It put that there without a prompt by looking, because I had some of the style of the building as well around it. So it must have knew it was that type of thing too. But there was no prompt involved in that, only a selection. Yeah, it's a very interesting program.
You said that was your vision. It wasn't your vision. The Buddha was not the Buddha was not your vision.
That's correct. The Buddha was not my vision, but the overall, the picture, the girl was there. That to me was an incidental thing on the side. It was not, but you're right. These are things that do have to be settled. If I'm just going to put this up on my wall, I don't have to explain it to everyone. But if we're deciding competition rules, then these are darn important. So I'm agreeing with you 100%.
You have to give the software credit.
Yep.
I just think it's getting the technology. We're not going to be able to tell if someone did a little thing or anything. I think if you establish rules, one of the things I can think of is you have to force anyone who took a picture who's in a competition to bring the raw files so you can compare the raw file to the file that they're showing in the competition so you can see what the original was and you can see if they added or removed or how they did it, what they did.
Right, and that is to bring the raw file. You're right. That's one. Like I said, that's what magazines and other things do as well. The question a club would have to get into, though, is the logistics of that. You'd have to have someone reviewing all the raw files of these. You'd have to have raw files submitted, which means, and raw files are big files too, and we do all our submissions digitally. But the other problem too is you'd have to then force everyone to shoot in RAW, where a lot of the club members are shooting just in JPEG too. So those are all valid things. But again, the competition committee has to work out this is all logistics. By the way, I have no clue how to really do this.
I'm just thinking that if you think of the photographs in a similar way to a scholarly paper, where footnotes are required, where you need to say where you got content that is not your own, that would be good. And another point is that, guess what? Nowadays, we can put somebody's term paper through a program and find out all the stuff that they cheated on. So eventually, that will come to this, where you just run the photo through a program. So, well, this was AI, this was AI, this was AI. But as far as giving credit, there's no doubt you should have to give credit. None at all. Because the ambiguous club with the number, it even said it has to be your own original content. And anything with AI is not your own original content. So that's what I have to say.
Yeah, devil's advocate for just 1 second. I was thinking about this on the way up today. But then all these painters who were influenced by other painters. Now, they were influenced. They didn't copy their work. But they were influenced. Every art student studies paintings, and they're influenced by them. So when they do their paintings in the style of something or other too, do they have to give credit? Could they not say this is their own because they scraped the work of Dali and all these other things too? So we don't think of that, but it's kind of the same thing. Is this program is learning so I just kind of saying devil's advocate because it's a similar. Artists learn from other artists by looking at their work and studying it and emulating certain things of that, which is in a sense what this is doing. So I'm not defending it. I'm saying it's all,
I have 2 words for you. Andy Warhol.
Okay.
Oh, no, I was just stretching.
Oh, he's just stretching. Okay. Yeah, here we have another one here.
I'm just assuming that AI could keep your original photograph and store it in its database and use it in the future for somebody else, let alone your finished picture.
That's a good point. In terms of when I put my photograph into Midjourney or something, what happens to it? I have no clue. And that is a good point. Could mine and my generated go into the knowledge base? Of course, and I don't know that. So that's another point to be concerned about. What?
Oh, just to answer back your thought about the painters being influenced by other painters. you know, there's gradations of that, and at some point we call that plagiarism, you know. So I think that's kind of an apples and oranges sort of thing. I think you're trying to compare, you know, a captured image with a generated image, you know, and I think there's just there just has to be a black and white line at some point, because the rest of this is gradations of what you're talking about, basically manipulated or not.
That's a good point. No, that's an excellent point. And Mick, yeah.
To confirm with Topaz AI, it asks you how it did.
Topaz,
The sharpening. Which one did you like and how did
oh, yeah, those two. Photoshop beta,
feedback helps improve
yeah.
the algorithm from us?
Yes, which is what Photoshop beta, each time you'll be asked to do that. Their neural filters, whatnot, as well. So again, what I want to do is I wanted to kind of make everyone think about these. It's not like I'm advocating or pushing AI or anything like that, but I wanted to make sure the club was exposed to all these different kind of arguments, because in the end, it is the club that's going to have to decide really what's best for us, that type of thing as well.
The opportunity for our club, as Rich said, is the other clubs are kind of ignoring AI at this point. So there's a window here where a CPS could actually be the leader in the photography world, in a sense, for AI. So if we collectively figure this out as a group, we can actually set the standard for how AI is being managed and used in photography moving forward. The opportunity, I think, is in our hands. So the smarter we get about it, the more we think about it, the more we talk about it, the more we discuss it and figure out how we are bringing it in. And we can certainly walk before we run with this, right? We slowly bring it in, we introduce it, we look at some of the issues that Mike brought up about judging and how it fits in a category. We could be the ones that the rest of the industry is looking at saying, these guys figured it out. I think we can.
Well, I have a question for Bill. Then I'll give you the mic there too. Bill is, and I don't know the answer to this. The one I showed of the young girl where I took out the guy and it put in the Buddha and whatnot too. Would that be eligible for? Would that fit in pictorial? Anything goes. So in other words, yeah. Yeah, he said anything goes in pictorial.
Yeah, anything goes in pictorial. That's basically the way it's written, so that would be allowed. So, you know, is that any different than putting a sky in when we had to take a picture during an overcast day and the good sky wasn't there? But however, the reason I brought up the Buddha in your photograph, that's not incidental. That was a significant element of the photograph.
But it's
in my opinion.
but it's pictorial. Does it say incidental in our rules? It says
No, it does not.
So
but I'm saying
yeah.
this is something that we'd have to
Yes.
me, if you're going to do AI, and obviously this is coming and people are going to be using it, we need to come up with some kind of rule where the significant elements of the photograph were taken by you. That's the road I would want to go down. In creative, I would guess that we need a creative AI category, because, you know, I can meticulously put together images. I entered one last year, hands reaching towards the moon, fog in the foreground. It placed in our creative category, didn't get on the wall, but it placed. You know, I meticulously took those images right down to the moon, the hands and everything. The only thing I didn't do, I added the fog from Photoshop. But all the elements of that were mine. Does that make it more legitimate as creative? Probably not. Not with AI and where you can go and what we've learned tonight about the details and putting in prompts and stuff. But I do think there needs to be a separate category for that, because like you said, if we had a creative AI category, you don't even have to own a camera, but at least we differentiate. That's just, I'm thinking this stuff off the top of my head.
Yep, over there, Bill.
Actually, to Bill's point too, we're losing. It sounds to me like in some ways we're losing our sense of what's a photographer, and maybe that's something we need to maybe define. You know, because we're a photography club, kind of implies we're photographers. But if we're just going to allow, you know, sitting in the basement and typing in words and having a program generate an image and call that a photograph, is that really a photographer doing that?
Yep,
And then one
these
other
are all
thing,
good
when
points.
these rules do get discussed and decided, is that open for public comment and conversation?
Is Dave here tonight? Where's Dave? Our competition committee. Yes, this is all our competition committee, which is Dave Tripp now, is the one tasked.
There are 5 or 6 people on that competition committee.
Okay. Yes, so he is the. Okay.
Number one among 6.
He is the number one. Yes. Okay. So let me get this. The organizational. Yes. No. You can correct. No. Please do. Is no. Yes. Correct. Correct. I spoke just off the top of my head. The correct way this gets done. We have a competition committee which is made up of a chairman and then heads of each of the individual competitions, creative competition, people competition, whatnot. That is the competition committee. And the competition committee is, given the task of determining the rules. And again, and they certainly, I would imagine, want input from the membership. So no, I want to be correct on that. So that's, no, that's no problem. Yes?
I just thought that I'd like the input of having the raw data with the final picture that's provided, so you have a comparison, but also if there's some way to quantify from subjective to put it objectively, what percentage of the final image has been modified. Like in your case, you could look at every one of those images and get a percentage. It's almost like in copyrights, there's a percentage of the number of words and that sort of thing. That way you get some, again, instead of making it subjective, you make it objective, and you can at least have that even as a footnote, a percentage of which was AI or not, in that other category that the gentleman was talking about.
Yeah, like but it would have to be kind of a self-reported thing. You'd have to.
Yeah, of course. There's a great deal of honesty that has to happen here.
Yeah.
If we're all photographers and we're using our instrument, then
yeah. No, that's a good
some
point.
of that has to happen.
All this needs to be and
Again, it's objective.
yeah. We had a comment in the back here. Oh.
Yeah, I think there's a big difference between, Bill, you were saying that you took all the main components of your image. And that takes skill to sit there and line up the lighting and take all the elements. You took the time. Like, there's some photographers I follow, and it's just, and somebody was just like, oh yeah, well, here's the images I used. Somebody goes, oh, do you go out and take those? No. There's a big difference. Then you're a digital artist. You're not a photographer. Bill took all those images and he added something to piece them together, but he still went out and took all those images. And I'm not picking on you, Richard, but you had the little girl, you had the building. Like, yes, that was there, but you didn't take the picture of the Buddha, and it's a pretty big part of the image. So it's like, to me, those are very different things. Like, the one, the computer created something out of nothing that you didn't take, and whereas, the other image, which I haven't seen, but it's like he took all the images and, he took the time to line up all the lighting and line them up in Photoshop, which is a skill.
No, I agree with you completely. And let me differentiate. I would not enter that picture too. So in other words, that was one I did for my satisfaction as art. So what we, just showing the possibilities, what we need as a club, you're right, is rules for competition, which are completely different. I agree with you completely. Yeah.
Well, with the autofill too, like, okay, what if you changed it instead of the Buddha, you had a black background because that's what you intended? Is that can you use that, or where do you get? That's what we got to figure
Well,
out.
that's
Where
why
do you
the
draw
lines
line?
need to be drawn, because you're right. The Buddha was made that is added content that wasn't there. I just used choice number 1, which was a continuation of the black background and a redrawing of the building line, then that would be acceptable. So you're right. My argument is just to have all these things covered so that whatever rules come out, all this stuff is spelled out so that all the members know what is acceptable in certain categories and what isn't. But without fully understanding all this, you could write sometimes just rules that leave you just as confused. So that's an excellent point. Any other comments? Okay, well, I hope this, sheds some insight. I thank John, for his portion there too. And it's given the competition committee a lot to think on and go on. And I'm going to look also into some way that we can get member input to the competition committee as well. Yes, through the website. Okay, so thank you all very much.
In creative, I have no idea what you do
I don't.
with creative because you're trying to tell people to be as creative. Creative to me has always been a
Yeah.
goofy category because every time you push a shutter, you're trying to be creative.
Right.
Why do you have a separate category? That was my thought
And
from the day I
pictorial,
joined the
and
club.
there are going to be people,
Makes sense.
Oop.